I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis, and today we're going to do a review and overview of the new Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian. I'm going to show you a little closer look at what this drone looks like in comparison to the original Phantom 4 Pro over here. Now, what's the big differences technically wise? Nothing. They are both absolutely the same as far as the specs go, but this one is a nice sort of black gunmetal exterior, and the controller it comes with, and the battery is also sort of a gunmetal color. But cool thing about this one is these batteries are interchangeable. It doesn't matter which color you have. I can fly this battery in this original Phantom 4 Pro here, or I can fly in this one. No, it doesn't matter. They're universal. They're the same battery. They're just sort of a gunmetal color now. So let's go ahead. I'll show you a little closer look at what this drone looks like. We'll show you some of the exterior specs on this. If you haven't seen a Phantom 4 Pro before, you're in for a treat, because this is one of the best drones out there on the market that you can get as far as prosumer drones go. This is one of the top rated drones by Engadget, Wired Magazine, PC Mag, and all the rest of the tech mags and blogs out there. This one is the one to get. Either one of these, they are the absolute best for prosumer and even some professional aerial photography. So we'll go ahead and put this one on the bench for you. I'll go over some of the specs for you, and then we'll go outside and we'll do some flying with this new Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian. Alright guys, so there it is on the bench. This is the Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian. A little closer look at this drone, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of footage and a lot of reviews out there on this one. So even though it is the same spec, I wanted to get a copy of it, like I said, for you guys and show it off to you, mainly because I thought it was super cool looking. Beyond looks, the specs are all exactly the same, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the external parts of the aircraft, just give you a little closer look at the aircraft. We'll talk about the batteries. They're interchangeable between the Phantom 4 Pro batteries. The original white battery you can use on this one, no problem. And the transmitter is exactly the same, except for the color. So you can use the original charger that comes with it. So if you wanted to get two chargers going on this one, don't worry about getting an Obsidian version of that charger. You can use either charger for the transmitter or the batteries. I do have a white battery here, and just so you can see it work and actually in the drone working, I'll go ahead and fire this up for you, so you know that it does indeed work with this Obsidian. There we go, that familiar DJI startup tone, and the gimbal is loading up, and everything is good there. So you can use these batteries on the Obsidian. I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. And other than color, these batteries are the same. They are 15.2 volts, and both of them are 5870 milliamps. So they will get you that upwards of 25 to 30 minute flight times with the DJI Phantom 4. And both feature LEDs on the top, so you can see how fully charged your battery is, and it looks like this one needs a charge. And from the side, you can see both of these do have vents on the side, and this allows airflow to go between the cells and keep the cells cool, and that way they don't start to get upset and they start heating up and expanding. Now the gimbal itself also has an updated color scheme on the outside of it, all the way up to the top here for this top plate for your gimbal, which goes up inside the quad. This is sort of a metallic silvery color. The other one, the original Phantom 4 Pro, has sort of a muted gray, a matte gray color scheme, so this one looks a little sharper than the original Phantom 4 Pro gimbal. And both of these cameras are shooting 4K at 60 frames per second, which is super impressive. You also have in this one that 1-inch image sensor, which is great, shooting up to 20 megapixel still images. And one of my favorite pro features of the Phantom 4 series is the fact that this one does have a mechanical shutter in here. The P3s originally had the electronic shutter, so this is a huge upgrade for professional photography. Now, since this is a review, we can go ahead and talk about some cons on this model as well. One of the things I don't like about this, and you guys should know about this ribbon cable is hanging out right here, and if you come across any tree branches or anything sharp, and you crash into any various branches, this gimbal cable is hanging out on the bottom and the sides, so it's not very well protected. It's kind of hanging out right there. That's the one con I see about this gimbal, and over the years I've done a lot of repairs for gimbal cables. The ribbon cables, you can get them online, but they're kind of hard to repair yourself. You would almost have to send this off and have it repaired by DJI, so that's one con. I think DJI should recess this cable in their next gimbal design and keep all their cables tidy and inside the frame. And now you're looking at the front of the Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian, and we do have 5-direction obstacle sensing on this drone. So obstacle avoidance is all around this drone, and you have it from the front right here. You can see these two little black dots right here. Those are obstacle avoidance sensors. And if I rotate it to the side, you see some infrared obstacle avoidance on the side right here. And on the very back of the drone, if I twist it all the way around, you see 2 more back here, and 1 more rotation, and you see 2 more right here. So it has all the axes covered, and you have sensors on the bottom as well. I'll just bring this a little bit closer for you to see. This is a really nice looking bottom on this drone. It is all magnesium alloy and very machined very smooth and nice. And you can see these other sensors on the bottom here. These are your optical flow sensors. They see the ground as you're coming in, and it will actually stop the drone as it comes in for a landing. And it won't bounce and have too much ground effect when you're coming down, because it is electronically controlled, which is really a nice feature of this drone. Now over on the left-hand side of the drone, you might not have seen it before, but this is a close-up of where your recording card is going to go. This is where your micro SD card goes in, and you can use up to a 64 gigabyte micro SD card. So when you're going to look for one of these and buy one of these, ask the person at the store which one records 4K the fastest. The faster the card, the better the recording you're going to get, and the less lag in your video. Now if you use a micro SD card that can't support 4K, you're going to see a lot of stuttering. It's not your drone, it's actually the SD card messing up, and it can't handle the bit rate being recorded down to the card. Also, we have a little linking button there, and we also have the micro USB port right there. Now, one of the biggest features of the Phantom 4 Pro, in my opinion, is the range. The range is absolutely awesome on this drone. It's up to 4.3 miles, which is also 7 kilometers. So you're going to get way out there with this drone. I have no problem flying just about any type of situation with this one. I do trust this controller and this system to pair up with the Phantom 4 Pro. I don't think I've ever actually lost signal with this drone using it, and I've been using this drone for almost a year now, so I'm very impressed with the solid connection for the image transmission back to my device, my iPad or my iPhone 7. Both are really nice and fluid. Now, if I can talk about one con of the transmitter, I think this transmitter is a little bit bulky for late 2017. I think we should be evolving toward smaller transmitters, but there is one con of a smaller transmitter. Yes, it's more portable, but it's not going to give you as many flights. So something like the Phantom 4 Pro, you're going to get many flights with this larger style transmitter, mainly because it has a much larger internal battery. But the Mavic uses an image transmission and signal system called OcuSync, and the Phantom 4 Pro actually uses full-blown light bridge. But aside from being a little bit bulky, this transmitter does fold down quite nice. The antennas fold down and the device holder folds down kind of nice. It also flips up, and what's so great about this device holder is the fact that it will hold up to an iPad Air tablet. So very nice, large device holder here for any large tablet. And it also has rubber grips on the side, the back. It has 2 here, and it has a long rubber pad across the back, and it does feel pretty ergonomic in your hands and nice. It feels nice and natural. It has a lot of soft curves but no hard edges along the side of the transmitter. And this transmitter does have the exact same type of feature for the button. The power button, if you press it once, it gives you the battery status inside the transmitter, and it'll go out for a second there. If you press again once and hold 2 seconds, it will turn on, and it gives you the power status here connecting to the drone, so you can see that the drone's not on right now, and I do have 4 bars there for my internal battery. If I press once again and hold, it'll turn off. Now when the drone is on, you turn this on first and then you turn on the drone. This light right here should look green. And conveniently located next to the power button, you have the return to home function right here on the transmitter. So if your device fails on you, or you have a battery go out on your device, you still have the option right here to return your quad to home if you're out of sort of a line of sight operation. Now you're looking at the left-hand side of the transmitter right here, and it's kind of hard to see, but this is your mode switch right here. This says on this side, this says off, and P, S, and A modes. You have auto hold right here, which is position hold. That's going to keep GPS on. It's going to keep your drone in one spot and lock it into place horizontally and for your altitude hold. If you go to S, that's going to put it in sport mode, and you have to activate this switch inside the settings in your app to make sure that this is going to be active. Otherwise, it's going to keep you in position hold. Now all the way down, that's going to be A mode, and that's going to be altitude hold mode. And just below the mode switch, we have this little silver wheel right here. This is your gimbal tilt control. So that's going to move the camera up and down. And just above that, we have the video record button. So if you want to use your video record button on the transmitter itself, you can do that. Or you can also do it inside the DJI Go app. Now you're looking at the right-hand top side of the transmitter, and we have a few different buttons here on this one as well. And we have another silver wheel. This little silver wheel has notches in it, different than the gimbal wheel. This one's all smooth over here. It moves really smooth back and forth. You can kind of feel a little notch for the very center on that one, but this one notches all the way around. Every turn is another click, and this is for your camera dial settings. So you can adjust camera settings on this, something like your shutter, and you can change the functions on that inside the DJI Go app. And just above that, we have two different buttons here, and one button is for your shutter button where you take photos in the drone. Also, you can do that inside the DJI Go app. And over here, this is a pause button for the actual aircraft. So if you're in an active intelligent flight mode like tap fly or active track or any other advanced modes, if you press that button, it's actually going to stop the P4 mid-air and hold its position and altitude. And on the back side of the transmitter, right where your index fingers are going to be resting, you will have the C1 button here, the C2 button. Those are both customizable buttons inside the DJI Go app. You can add different functions to those buttons inside the menus. And if you lift this little flap right here, this is where your charge port is for your internal battery. And behind the antennas back here, we have a guardrail, which is nice for resting it, kind of like a kickstand on the bench. You have your USB port there. That's for plugging in your device. No matter what device you're using, phone or tablet, you need to plug in and bring a cable with you. That's one other con about this drone that I don't like, because I've been on trips before with my Phantom 4, pulled it out, got ready to fly, and realized I didn't have my cable with me. So I had to go all the way back home, get my cable, come back and do my flight. Kind of annoying thing about the Phantom 4. But you also have a micro USB port here next to the full-size USB as well. Now, aside from being really cool looking and a black shell, this one also has dual GPS inside, which is GLONASS, which is utilizing Russian and American satellites, and you'll get upwards of 15 to 20 satellites on this particular drone, which is kind of amazing. So I don't really ever worry about losing GPS connection. Years past, we had Phantom 1s and Phantom 2s, and they were notorious for losing GPS and satellite signal, but not so much with the more modern DJI drones. Right now you're looking at the original Phantom 4 Pro motor next to the new Obsidian motor, and they're pretty much absolutely the same. All the specs are the same on both of these. They also have those vented motor bottoms on these, so you can get maximum airflow coming from the top of the motor down out through the bottom. They also both have recessed LEDs underneath, and they have vents underneath the arms as well for cooling the entire system. You also have vents underneath where the gimbal is, so you can get continuous airflow through the quad. Now, if you look a little closer at both of these motors from the top, the original Phantom 4 Pro, it has little black dots on the top, and that lets you know that you need to pair it up with this prop right here. This is your clockwise prop, and it's just going to snap down originally, just like the new one does, and you have a little spring-loaded pin in the middle there, which locks the prop into place. It kind of pushes down and then pushes back up. So the original props do work on the new motors. You just kind of spin those into place until you hear it click, and then you're going to pull up on it just to make sure that it's locked into place before takeoff. So no difference there with the motors, and the original props do fit on the new Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian. Now you're looking at the counterclockwise motors for the original Phantom 4 Pro on the left and the new one on the right. Now they look a little bit different, but they are both exactly the same. They're both counterclockwise motors. This one just has a white top on it, letting you know that you need to put this counterclockwise prop here with the silver ring on it. This is going to be your white version, not the black one, because the black one is going to be clockwise. Now they both do fit back and forth on these motors as well, so you can grab a silver one of your Obsidians and put it on the original Phantom 4 Pro, and you can use the white one over on this one. So you see the little white dots up here, that means you need to use one of the silver ringed props, which are your counterclockwise props. Now the Phantom 4 Pro prop and the Obsidian prop, like I said, they are exactly the same. They're both 9.5-inch prop from tip to tip right here. They do have a wide cord in the middle, and there's no design changes between both of these props. And you also have a sort of a tapered tip here. And what this does is it gives you a nice boost, and it also gives you a quieter prop with a more tapered tip at the end. But when I say quiet, it's not going to be as quiet as something like a DJI Mavic. Those have a lower profile out in public. The Phantom 4s, they do have sort of a louder, sort of iconic sound to the Phantom 4. When you hear one, you know it. And now I have both Phantom 4s here on the bench for you to look at, the original Phantom 4 on the left there and the new Obsidian on the right. And I guess it's up to you to decide which version you want, which one you like the best, which one you think looks the best, really, because both of the image qualities on these image sensors and the cameras, they're both the same, but it just depends on which one you think looks cooler. I prefer the Obsidian over the original Phantom white color. I've just been looking at this white Phantom for years, and it's nice that DJI came out with the Obsidian, I think, because it reminds me a little more of the Mavic, and I just think the color scheme on the Mavic looks awesome. I love the way this one looks. It looks like something out of like Transformer movie or something. It's a really cool, iconic design, but the Mavic is also much smaller, but much less flight time, but also one of my favorite drones out there. So you can't go wrong with any of the 3 drones that you see sitting here on the bench. So if you're still with us at this point, you're probably looking for information for buying your first Phantom 4 or Obsidian version right here. Now, I'm gonna help you guys out. If this is your first GPS style drone, this is Drone Camp's channel, so traditionally we like to help the new guys and foster new pilots into our hobby. And it's very important that you guys understand some of the flight basics of flying a GPS drone. So we're going to walk you through a little tutorial with the Phantom 4 Obsidian, specially made for you for your first day out with your Phantom 4 Pro. So maybe you just got one and just trying to get familiar with the drone. We're going to help you out with that. We're also going to show you some basic flight characteristics and what to look out for in this review. And after that, after we do some line of sight flying, we'll do some aerial photography as well, and we'll show you some of the footage from this particular camera off this Phantom 4 Obsidian. So let's go ahead and charge up the battery now and go out to the field. All right, guys, here we are at the field with the Phantom 4 Obsidian. It's already loaded up and ready to go. We have a satellite lock on our home position. If you're new to this is going to be a great section of the video because we're going to go through some Drone Camp's curriculum to teach you about your first day with your quad. So if you just bought one of these, this is going to be perfect for you. Guys that already have experience, you can go ahead and skip ahead forward if you'd like to see some of the footage that we acquired with our Phantom 4 Obsidian. So we'll go ahead and get started for the new guys and add a little more value to this review. So one of the first things that's most important about flying drones in general is location. One of the reasons that we say this is because DJI has maps on your drone that won't let you fly in various locations close to airports, government property, schools, post offices, etc. So find an open field near your house, preferably something like this with no trees in the close proximity to where you're going to take off, because if you have trees, a lot of times new guys right out of the gate will hit a tree and bump, and then you'll tear up your gimbal. So very important that you choose a big wide open field. Also maybe a field that you know you have permission to fly at, which we do here. Now, one of the most important tips that I can give you before you take off, make sure that you check your phone and check your weather on your computer before you go out on that day to fly. Preferably it will be a nice sunny day with no wind, would be optimal conditions. Or on a day like today, if you have a good visibility more than a couple miles, then you're okay. But one of the biggest things you want to do is keep it in line of sight. When you're first learning to fly, don't fly way out a couple miles, because these things do have a range of about 4 miles. But if you keep it within line of sight, if you do have a problem, if your battery just slides out and the quad drops to the ground, you'll actually know and you'll be able to see where it fell to, and you'll be able to go get it. That's one of the biggest things that I try to teach people just getting started in drones. Now, another important tip is go ahead and calibrate your compass using your app. Go ahead and go through the motions of calibrating your compass. It's going to be very important to the return to home situation. If you have a return to home situation and you don't calibrate your compass, chances are it might not know where home is, because that's how the compass dictates true north, to be able to return to the exact spot where you recorded the home point. Now, another pre-flight checklist tip is make sure all your props are nice and secure. After you put them on, go ahead and give them a tug with your thumb all the way around on each motor, just to make sure that the prop is on nice and snug and it's not going to pop back off. The next thing to look for is your battery. These batteries slide into this quad, and I had a friend just the other day show me a picture of his landing on a trampoline.
he actually got really lucky. His fell like 100 feet out of the air and landed on a trampoline because his battery slid out backwards. He didn't lock it in all the way. So double, triple, quadruple check that your battery is in and locked into position, that it can't come undone. So if it comes undone, all the motor vibration can have that battery slide right out of your quad and will automatically drop out of the air. Now, one of the things I'm going to recommend for new pilots and experienced pilots is to always fly with a landing pad. A takeoff and landing pad is going to keep all the debris, dust, and dirt off your motors and off your gimbal. It also keeps your quad off the wet ground when you're taking off on a wet surface. And it makes a nice practice point to come back to and land your quad. So the first part of this drone camp with our Obsidian Pro is we're going to do hover orientation. Hover orientation basically teaches you stick orientation, right and left stick on the transmitter. It's going to help you understand which way your drone is facing, and also we're going to do some nose-in flying. Nose-in flying is different than flying with the quad rear facing towards you, because everything left and right is the same when the rear is facing towards you, but when the drone is facing you head on, it's like an RC car. Left is right and right is left, backwards is forwards and forwards is backwards. So it gets very complicated really quickly. I've had people fly into trees on their first day because they didn't realize. Now this one does have 5-axis object avoidance, but we don't want to rely on that. We always want to rely on line of sight when we're flying a drone. And one other thing, guys, don't forget to take your gimbal guard off. If you leave your gimbal guard on before takeoff, if you turn it on, you could possibly damage your gimbal and have to send it back to DJI. After your quad's been sitting on the ground for a minute or more, your app's going to tell you that the home point has been recorded. So now we're ready to take off and do our first hover. But before we do that, you want to establish that your takeoff zone is absolutely clear and free of obstructions, dogs, animals, and or people. So what I recommend doing before you take off, just do a 360 pan around you, look all the way around you, left, right, behind you, and make sure that you have a clear visual for takeoff. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take off. We're going to do our first hover orientation and stick orientation. So we'll go ahead and we'll use the auto takeoff option inside the app. Now you can see the quad into a hover now. I'm going to go forward just a little bit and come up for you guys. So now you can see that little black dot there on the screen. That's the Obsidian Pro just chilling. When it gets close to you and you hear that noise where it's beeping, that's because the object avoidance sees you in its peripheral. So you want to make sure that you get the quad away from you pretty quickly. What I generally recommend is that people take off about 20 feet away from them. Give yourself some room, some distance between you and the quad. Okay, so I'm going to show you really quickly what I'm talking about as far as stick orientation. We're going to start with the right stick first. So you're going to move the stick to the left. That's going to move the quad to the left, and you're going to stop there. Now GPS hold is taking control of the quad now when I let go of the sticks, and for the altitude as well. Now we're going to fly to the right and stop right there. See how the GPS takes over? Now we're going to fly backwards, and you're going to hear that beeping again because the object avoidance does see me. Now we're going to fly forward. So using the right stick only, you've done your first basic flight controls. Left, right, backwards, and forwards. Okay, if you let go of the stick, if you freak out, something's going wrong, let go of the stick and it's going to maintain its hover and orientation. Even with a little bit of wind, it's going to bite back in the wind and push against the wind to maintain its position. Now if you get close to the ground, one of the things that I teach people is that when you're coming in for a landing, come in nice and slow, take your time using the left thumb only. And if you see the quad bounce, that's because you're having something called ground effect. It's tumbling air near the ground that will cause instability in the drone's flying process. So be careful about ground effect when you're coming in. You don't want your quad to tip over. And if you do have a landing pad, that's going to help you tremendously. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the yaw stick and throttle. The yaw stick is the left stick on your transmitter. If you push left, you'll see that the quad turns left. And if you push right, you'll see that the quad turns right. Now I'm going to push it to the left again, and it's going to come around straight. So the rear is facing us right now, and to fly nose in, we're going to push right all the way around till your quad turns all the way around, and you see the camera pointing at you. Now you're flying nose in. Now I'm going to go just a little bit higher so you guys can definitely see what I'm doing here. I'm gonna come in a little bit closer, okay? Now, this is where it gets interesting. If you push on the right stick, if you push left, the quad is actually gonna go the opposite direction of the way you push the stick. Now, if I push to the right, it's gonna go to my left. Very interesting. So keep that in mind. This is gonna take some practice because the controls are opposite when you're facing the home point. Now, if I push away from me on the right stick, it's gonna come toward me. Now, if I push back toward me, it's gonna go away from me. Now, practice this for some time, maybe a half a battery. Just give yourself like 10 minutes to practice this left and right orientation while you're nose in, and this is gonna help you a lot. This is what single rotor pilots do to establish stick orientation, and it helps a lot for flying multi-rotors. Okay, now that we're done with nose in flying, let's go ahead and use the yaw stick again. Left stick only, push to the right, and bring your quad all the way around to the rear of the quad is facing you. Now we're gonna work on throttle. Throttle is the left stick on the transmitter, so go ahead and push full up on your throttle, and we're gonna do what we call a GPS column. You're gonna fly straight up to about 50 feet or so, and then start your descent by pushing down on the stick. You don't have to push all the way full down to come back down. If you come down nice and slow, you're actually gonna get a better video quality, because on the descent, sometimes we get wobbling propellers, which with this 3-axis gimbal, it really doesn't matter that much. It's not gonna be that big of a deal, but keep that in mind for the super windy days as well. The slower you fly, the more cinematic your shots are gonna look. Now, the next part of this training is we're gonna go ahead and do some circuits. Beginner circuits are very, very easy. We start out doing a square to the right. We'll do 2 of those, and then we'll do a square to the left. After we're done doing square circuits, we're gonna move on and we're gonna do something called the organic circle, where we use yaw and the right stick at the same time, because you're gonna be learning to fly with your left and right thumb at the same time in forward flight when you're moving left and right. If you're looking at FPV view, it's not such a big deal, but when you're flying line of sight, if you learn to fly line of sight first before you start relying on FPV, you're gonna be a much better pilot. Okay guys, for your first square circuit, I'm gonna wear the GoPro on my hat so you guys can see a little better what's going on out here in the open field. So you're gonna start out here on the right-hand side of you. Just go ahead and pause in that spot, maybe 10 feet off the ground. I usually tell people this is great training for anyone. I've actually had my grandparents in this same training program, and they were pretty amazed that within about 20 minutes, they were flying a drone with no problem. So here we go. We're gonna do our first square circuit. So start out in position number 1 right there. You're going to use the right stick only, and you're going to push out this direction, not touching the left stick at all. If you see you get close to the ground, use your left thumb to raise yourself up a little bit. Okay, you're going to stop in position 2. Now you're going to use the right thumb again. You're going to go about 20 feet and stop. Position number 3. Now you're almost done with your first square circuit. This is very basic. It's meant to be. It's meant to teach you right stick orientation. Now stop again. Now you're at position number 4. Now we're going to go to the right again. And we're at the final position for completing the first square. So now we can go ahead and I'm going to come down just a little bit. I'm going to go through that real quick again, just really quickly. I'm going to give myself a little higher altitude. I'm going to stop using my right thumb only, and I can complete my first quick square circuit. Okay, now we're going to do it in the left-hand fashion. So we're going to start here at position number 1. We're going to use the right thumb again. We're going to go the opposite direction, not using throttle stick. Now we're going to stop again here, the corner of our imaginary square, and stopping again, and coming back, and stopping again to complete our square. Now we can go around really quickly, and this is really teaching you right stick maneuverability. So as you can see, you get a little bit better as time goes on with flying this right stick. It doesn't take long to figure out orientation. What's so great about these GPS drones is because they do come to a stop when you let go of the stick, and they maintain altitude. So pretty sweet. Now we're gonna do something called the organic circle. So go ahead and fly about 20 feet in front of yourself. Give yourself plenty of room between you and the drone. We're gonna use right stick again. And if you want to, you can start throwing some yaw into it. Yaw is the horizontal rotation axis that you see right there. I'm using my left thumb there for yaw. And we talked about yaw when we were doing nose in flying. So we're gonna go ahead and fly that organic circle using the right stick. And we're not gonna spin the drone around facing towards us. We're just gonna do one big wide circle and back to the starting point right there, okay? Now we can go in the opposite direction. Now I've got a low battery warning, so I'm gonna complete this circle and we're gonna come in and land. All right, organic circle process, very, very simple. Now the next thing we're gonna talk about is forward flight. Okay, so now that GPS is all loaded up, we're gonna go ahead and hit auto takeoff again and come up into a hover. So go ahead and fly out into the field. Give yourself plenty of space between you and the quad. Now before we took off, we were supposed to look left, right, and behind us. You want to make sure there's no dogs or animals around you or around the quad when you're going to take off, because when you power these motors up, they're pretty powerful. Now the next step in this course, we're going to go ahead and do some forward flight. First, we're going to play around with yaw before we start forward flight, because what we're going to do in this part of the instruction is we're going to use both thumbs to fly the quad. And this is great line of sight practice for you. First, we're going to start with the left thumb and we're going to practice yaw. We're going to hold it all the way left so it goes all the way around at its maximum rotation speed. There you go. I'm going to come up just a little more here. Okay, so you can see that. I'm going to go to the right, maximum yaw speed here. Nice. Now what you do when you're flying and making curves is making turns. You're going to use your right thumb and your left thumb at the same time. So push forward on your right thumb and turn left with your left thumb. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do figure eights. So give yourself 10 to 15 feet up off the grass and work on those figure eights. The figure eight is the best introduction into forward flight. Try to keep it right in front of yourself, and you don't have to go fast. You don't have to really go stick banging and as fast as possible. This is all about learning control. So we're just going to keep going around in this figure eight, and once you've mastered a figure eight in one direction, like the other circuits that we did, do it in the opposite direction. So now that we've done it in that direction, let's go ahead and fly around. A little bit of freestyle flying here. You can play around right out in front of you and just fly a full battery, flying line of sight and learning both sticks in front of you. After you've done these primary circuits, the GPS column, you're really starting to learn the sticks now. Really starting to learn quadcopter control. Very important to flying any quad. If you ever get in any trouble and you know how to fly line of sight, you're gonna have a much better experience recovering your quad if your GPS was to fail, or if you were in the wrong mode, or if you turn GPS off. There's so many different situations that could occur that knowing how to fly line of sight will help you with. And if you're looking to fly race quads, this is also a really important skill to learn. Guys that fly race quads that move up to these can't believe how easy these are to fly compared to a race quad. The accelerometer overreacted just then. Did you see it tip really quick? We're going to practice that yaw again. Okay, and keep working on your figure eights, folks. Now, we're going to also teach you a recovery method. And with DJI drones, since you have returned to home, You don't normally get into this situation with DJI drones because they usually do come back to home. But in the case that you're flying some other type of toy multi-rotor, and I've taught this to children, to adults, learning how to recover a quadcopter line of sight is a really important skill. So we're gonna fly way out there to where, say you're a couple hundred yards out and your quad just looks like a black dot in the sky. Now, I really like the way the Phantom 4 Obsidian looks in the sky, but it's kind of hard to tell orientation front and back. So if I spin on the yaw axis, and you can teach yourself this in an open field a little bit close to you. If you get in trouble, you can just walk over to the quad and fly it back to your home point. Or you can chicken out and press return to home. So I'm spinning the quad. Now I'm not sure which way it's facing. So the point of this exercise is to learn how to get it back to you. If the wind's blowing it away, or you're just having a problem bringing it back, and you don't want to use return to home, you want to fly it back line of sight, this is the technique that I do. Now, if I'm out there, I get confused, what I do is I use my yaw stick only, and I'm going to turn it one direction, and then I'm going to use the right stick to move it. And sometimes you can't tell which way it's moving out in the field in front of you, so you're going to use your left thumb after that first push of the right stick. Now I can tell it's kind of going away from me. See, these black quads are hard to tell which way they're going. So I'm going to spin it a little more, push back. Now it's going to the right if I push back. So that means that the front of the quad is facing to my left. So I'm going to use my yaw stick again. I'm going to spin it a little bit more. Now I'm going to press back on the stick, and the quad is coming back to me now. So this is the technique. What you're basically going to do if you lose track of where it's orientated at, you're just going to spin it a little bit, pull back on the stick, spin it again, pull back, spin it again, pull back. And remember, since you do have GPS altitude hold and hover, if you're high enough, it's not going to be a big problem. Eventually you're going to find the rear of the quad, and you're going to be able to bring it back just like this for your landing. All right, guys, now the quad is back on the ground, and that first drone camps course is complete. You've gone through this course and you've learned some circuits, some GPS columns, some forward flight, some nose-in flying, and all the basics that you need to know to learn how to fly a quadcopter. And this information can be applied to any quadcopter out there. Now, one other tip for you guys: if you just bought a Phantom 4 Pro and you're learning how to fly this, go through this curriculum. Do all the steps for all the circuits. Do the squares, the circles, the GPS column, the figure eights. Do everything in this curriculum. Now, if you do all those basic steps, you should be a better pilot, and it'll teach you some skills to think about when you're flying line of sight out in front of you. Now, one of the biggest tips I have for you guys for this particular quad is don't fly it out of line of sight. If you get it way out there, a mile or two out, and it decides to drop a battery on you, it's going to drop somewhere and you're not going to know where it went. So unless you put some type of GPS tracker on it, you're also endangering folks who might be under the quad or someone's property. So be very careful. Also, it's a good idea not to fly 4 miles out with a little bit of battery left, because what happens is a lot of guys that are new to this fly way out there, they have a bunch of fun way out there, and then they end up losing battery on the way home. So think about how far you have to come back. If you look at your phone and you're 5,000 meters out, make sure you have enough battery to make it 5,000 meters back. And that's something that you're not quite going to know about. So the closer in you keep the quad, the better chance of you getting it back on the ground and bringing it home in one piece. So my few final thoughts on the Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian model is that, yes, it's pretty much exactly like the Phantom 4 Pro White Edition. Exactly the same quad, it just has a new cool paint job. But if you watch my other video on the Phantom 4 Pro, it was deemed the best drone ever on my YouTube channel for a good reason. Why? Because it's absolutely awesome. The 4K video with the mechanical shutter on here, a 1-inch image sensor. I mean, it's just an amazing image quality. So we're gonna go ahead and get back up in the air. We're gonna show you what some of the video looks like, some of the stuff that we captured with our black Phantom 4 Pro Obsidian. Thanks again for watching, you guys. I'm Justin Davis. Enjoy the footage. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.